Speaking with Harlequin love-inspired author Hope White, and her new release, Christmas Undercover, is part of the Echo Mountain series about saving lives and finding love in the mountains of beautiful Washington State. Thank you so much for joining us today, Hope. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be a part of this.
And we have some awesome news for viewers. So we're going to be giving away copies of Christmas Undercover, also Mountain Rescue and Covert Christmas. So we're getting all Christmassy up in here, mountainy Christmas. And we're also going to do a giveaway from Theo Chocolates from Seattle. So we're super psyched about that. Yes, delicious chocolate. Super excited about that. So everyone stop by Booktrib after the chat and enter to win this great bundle of sweets and fun reads. So before we begin our questions, can you just tell us a little bit more about Christmas Undercover and your Echo Mountain series and just get us up to speed?
Okay, sure. So I proposed this Echo Mountain series because
Mm-hmm.
I was really fascinated by the search and rescue community up here in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
They're mostly volunteer and they drop everything to run out and help people who have been injured on trails or missing people. I think people remember the Oh-So mudslide.
Right.
That was all search and rescue volunteers that basically put their lives on hold to go
Right.
out there and rescue people. And when I went to one of their meetings, the motto was so that others may live. And I just thought it was a great community and subculture. So that kind of fascinated me. And then as far as the Christmas Undercover, it's the fourth book in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And it features a rogue FBI agent
Right.
who is not getting the right answer from her supervisor. And so she's like, I'm going to get the bad guys. And she kind of goes off on her own after these businessmen that have created a pharmaceutical that's actually very dangerous, and she's afraid people are going to take it and die. So she
Yeah.
goes off. They figure out that she's after them, and she's injured in the mountains, and the hero finds her unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And when he tries to help her, she thinks he's an assassin, and he pulls a gun on her.
Yeah.
Or she pulls a gun on him.
Right.
And so not a great way to start a relationship, but they figured it out in the end. So
Exciting
yeah.
nonetheless. It's very exciting. We have a couple of viewer questions coming through that are
Okay.
great. So I wanted to kind of pop some of these through. Connor wants to know, do you ever face any struggles when writing, and how do you overcome these particular struggles?
Um, you know, a writer friend of mine once said it's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Well, first, yes, writers encounter tons of struggles, tons and tons,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the writing process or life in general. And a friend of mine once said, it's like riding a bike. You just have to keep pedaling or you'll fall down.
Yeah.
So I think about that
So
often.
true.
And you just kind of push through it and you don't get down on yourself too much.
Yeah.
So you just keep writing and you say to yourself, I'm going to get this down. Because like Nora Roberts once said, you can't fix a blank page.
Right.
So you just write, you can come back and fix it. But if there's nothing there, then you're really in trouble.
Yeah. You got to put something down. Now, in terms
Yeah.
of your writing style, are you a plotter or are you a seat of the pants writer?
Oh, I have to confess, and I'm at like book 20 with Harlequin.
Wow.
I'm really what they call a pantser.
Yes.
But I'm learning more about plotting because when you go by the seat of your pants, you can really write yourself into some nasty corners, and
Yeah.
it takes time to write yourself out. So, yes, I'm trying to embrace the plotting aspect
Right.
and something called, and a lot of romance writers actually have learned about this. It's Save the Cat by Blake Snyder, and they're using it a lot in Hollywood, and a lot of romance writers are using it as well. So it's got 15 beats that you kind of plug in, and that gives you a really good idea of where you need to be, and that's been hugely helpful for me.
Oh, I've never heard of that. Is that like a program that you use or?
It's his book. It's called Save the
What's the
Cat,
book? Okay.
the last book on screenwriting you'll ever need.
Ah,
And the
I
reference to
see, I
Save the
see.
Cat is that you know how all your characters need to be sympathetic?
Yeah.
Like you have to like your protagonist
Right.
at some level or you're not interested in the story.
Exactly.
So that's where he got the title. And it's really a fun book. And his writing is really easy to understand and to read. So
Fantastic. Now,
yeah,
now we have a few other questions. Sandra wants to know, have you
okay.
ever considered writing another genre? And if so, what do you think you would write?
Well, actually, under my other name, Pat White, I write young adult thrillers.
Yes.
And that kind of goes along with the whole mystery suspense element.
Mhm.
And then before all of this, I also wrote contemporary kind of romantic comedy. So I have written in other genres.
Right.
And then as a screenwriter, I write young adult I write thrillers, adult thrillers,
Mhm.
and I write romantic comedy. So I write in a couple different genres.
Yeah. Do you ever find it hard to switch from one to the other? Do you need like a day in between, or is it like just finding a different voice? Is it kind of a strange process?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely easier when I'm just hyper focused on one genre
Yeah.
at a time. But sometimes it's not possible, and I have to write morning in one and afternoon in the other.
Yeah.
And usually for me, if I just go back and read what I wrote, maybe a couple pages the day before,
Hmm.
that'll get me back into story, and then I'm off.
You're off and
So
running. Yeah.
it's not as hard as you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that there's a lot of FBI agents in your books. Are there any television shows or novels out there featuring FBI agents that you maybe inspired you, that you took ideas from?
I think at the beginning, Criminal Minds was a
Yeah.
good one. It's gotten a little dark for me lately, but
Hmm.
currently there's also the CSI Cyber is fascinating, especially with all the things that can happen in the internet and
Yeah,
with
exactly.
technology. And then this new show, Blindspot. Have you seen
No,
Blindspot?
I
It's
haven't.
just wow. Yeah, no, it's really good. So those are probably the shows that CSI Miami. So that's not exactly FBI, but
Hmm.
I've been watching procedurals
Yes.
forever, and I thought I had a problem. And it was not so much I had a problem as that I was just really fascinated by that whole culture,
Yeah.
the whole police culture.
And the
So
online cyber side of it is really terrifying. It's,
it's super creepy.
yeah.
It's almost like I can't watch it at night when it's on. I have to watch it during the
Yeah,
day
exactly.
because I won't be able to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what's Blindside about? Is that procedural or?
Blindspot
Yeah, Blind Spot. Yeah.
it's Blind Spot is really cool. So it's about this woman who literally wakes up in a duffel bag with nothing on but tattoos all over her body in the middle of what is that in New York City, Times Square,
Hmm.
right? So she wakes up and all these guys are coming at this bag with guns because they think it's some kind of bomb, but instead it unzips and this woman gets out.
Oh my God.
And all of these tattoos on her body lead them to something like some kind of a terrorist plot or something like that. But then, as with all TV, there's other layers of things going on. So, and she's great because, she turns out to have all these martial arts skills and stuff. And you're like, whoa, where did that come from? And the hero is really awesome. And it seems they might have a history. So it's really good. I'm really excited about
I'm
that
gonna have
one.
to check it out. That is certainly a pilot episode that gets you from the start. I would absolutely love that.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah, right. It grabs you.
crazy. Speaking of FBI agents, you dedicated Christmas Undercover to a particular person. Can you talk about just speaking with and kind of researching with the FBI?
Sure. I'm gonna glance at this again. Yes, I with it's kind of easy to okay, so this book was dedicated to Mark Jameson,
Hmm.
who's actually with Seattle PD. So he's kind of my local contact,
Yeah.
but also my husband's very best friend from high school
Oh,
is with the FBI SWAT. So it's really cool because,
yeah.
if I want to, confirm anything or ask any questions, I just email Mike and he gets back to me and says, this is how it really is. But sometimes, as we all know, you stick as close as you can to procedure, but sometimes for story purposes, you have to go a little off course. But I
Right.
try to be as accurate as possible.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's convenient to have someone that you can just call up and say, "Hey, listen, I need to kind of get the 411 on this."
It really is. It really is.
Now, in terms of romance authors or suspense, who are some of your favorites off the top of your head?
Oh my gosh, suspense authors. So wow, Suzanne Brockman, and she's a good friend, but
Yeah.
wow, she's just so good. Because a
Hmm.
lot of times with suspense, I feel that the it's a real gift to be able to work in that emotion,
Yeah,
not just, like that external plot.
exactly.
So she's a big one. I was a fan of Tammy Hogue. Haven't read her
Yeah.
recently, but when I got into this business, like Tammy Hogue was big and Nora Roberts was big. She
Hmm.
still is, obviously.
Right.
But so those are a couple of my favorites.
Excellent. Now, can you remember like the day you found out you'd be published, or is it a blur? Is it something that
The
stands
day I was
out?
published,
Yeah.
the day I got the call. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, of course. Yeah,
Recall.
you always remember that. It looks like this, okay? So
Uh-huh.
I'm in my kitchen doing dishes or something. The call comes in. The boys, who were then like, I don't know, 10 and 7, were throwing a Nerf ball through the house. The dog is chasing two dogs at the time. So two dogs are chasing around the
Oh my
house.
gosh.
I get the call, and it's just like I can hardly hear my agent, and he's like, "Okay, so I think we have an offer." And I'm like ducking footballs. I'm trying to get the dogs to stop barking. So mass pandemonium. I mean, you can't write this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, and on top of that, I'm trying not to cry because it's
Oh,
like the first book offer.
yeah.
And what's so cool about that is that was for a silhouette romance called Practice Makes Mr. Perfect, and the editor at the time is now, so that was in 2002. So the editor at the time is now the senior editor of the line that I write for.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's really cool
That's like
because
full
I get
circle,
to write
yeah.
for teen again.
Oh, that's
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
So it was a crazy day. Yeah.
Very emotional. Um,
Yep.
did you start out writing romance? I know you've done a lot of genres. Was it romance at first, or was it always romantic suspense, or did you kind of come out in a couple different genres?
Well, I started with a silhouette romance
Hmm.
under a pen name,
Hmm.
and that was really fun.
Yeah.
And then launched into intrigue pretty much right away after that.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, with scripts, it's both romantic comedy and romantic suspense, like thrillers.
Yeah.
So, but I was always drawn to the intrigue type stories. I think I just like it adds a layer, an element of danger,
I
adds a lot of
agree.
emotion to a story.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So not only are you falling in love, but oh my gosh,
Hmm.
guys are out to kill you. So,
Yeah.
it adds a layer naturally. Yeah.
Hmm. And your current characters are Sarah Vaughn and Will Rankin. So can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about, a little more about them, like the types of people they are?
I'm sorry, repeat that one.
Can you just tell us a
The
little bit
type of
more
people.
about yeah, the type of people, like did you model them after anyone that you know? Is Sarah part of you? Just a little bit more about them.
You, I think it's funny because I don't know if other authors would agree, but it seems like most characters have an element of you inside them somewhere.
Hmm.
Sarah's a lot more um, just kind of in your face. That's
Yeah.
not really me,
Hmm.
but they're also trying to kind of help people and save people. That
Right.
is kind of me. So, and Will is extremely gentle and compassionate, and yet he's strong. And that's really fun to do. I mean, it's one thing to have an alpha male, rah, but then to have a hero that's really kind of a beta hero that's very gentle and compassionate and yet firm and
Yeah.
strong. Kind of modeled a little bit after my husband because that's what he's like.
Oh, that's
So
great.
I think there's elements of people in your life in a lot of your characters.
Yeah. And in terms of just an actor and actress that you could think of to play them, is there anyone in mind, or do you kind of not even think about that? I know some authors say I can never compare them to a Brad Pitt or is there anyone that you think
Oh,
of?
I always do that. And
Yeah.
when I'm writing, I usually have pictures of them on my screen
Oh, that's
and then they talk to me. But I think in this case, it would be like Nathan Fillion and
yeah.
um, the gal that plays Kate Beckett,
Hmm.
Stana, in Castle. So
Oh, that's
and the
perfect.
characters are somewhat similar too,
That.
because Nathan's playful. I mean, even in real life, he seems like a playful kind of person,
Yeah.
and Kate Beckett is really intense, and she's going to get the bad guy no matter what, and almost to a fault. So that felt like a natural comparison to me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you have a lot of Christmas romances, and it's only October, but we know that Christmas obsessed people start early. I'm already seeing Christmas stuff out.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
so Christmas romances. Do you have any favorite Christmas romances or romance movies that you can tell us about?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So the
I feel
all-time
like I have a whole
favorite,
collection here.
yeah, yeah. Um, the all-time favorite actually would be tied between Love Actually, to me
Oh my
is
gosh,
the
yeah.
best Christmas
The
movie ever.
definitive.
And
Yep.
yeah, right. And just the fact that it's kind of real because it's not like all happy endings everywhere. There's all those different stories. And I love this
Exactly.
mythology behind it because that was like a
Hmm.
3.5 hour movie when he first,
I know.
brought it into the editing room. Yeah, and he had to
Yeah.
chop that down. But that movie was brilliant. And then While You Were Sleeping, I don't know if a lot of people have seen
Yes.
that one, but oh my gosh, it was just
It's a great
sweet and
movie.
fun. Yeah, and really,
Hmm.
we don't have a lot of that these days in the movie theaters. So a lot of
No,
it is
yeah.
the big budget ones.
Yeah.
So those are my two
Mhm.
favorite, and like Holiday Inn and White Christmas, the standards.
Yeah.
Those.
I remember my mother watching while you were sleeping and like bawling her eyes out because she's just a hopeless romantic.
Yeah,
It's the
so
cutest
good.
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, yeah, Christmas is going to be right around the corner. It's going to be here before you know it. Um, any advice for romance writers looking to get published? Is there anything you could tell them that you think helped you?
Yeah, I'm actually teaching a class at the community college that covers everything, the whole
Fantastic.
gamut. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, I would say what was really important to me was
Hmm.
joining a group. So I joined the
Yeah.
Chicago North chapter of Romance Writers of America. So
Hmm.
wherever you live, go to Romance Writers of America and then look for the local chapter. That kind of
Yeah.
support is just priceless. I mean, that was
Right.
huge. And then
Mhm.
to keep going and never give up. I mean, it took me 7 years to
Exactly.
actually get my first contract. So, and
Yeah.
since then I've published, I don't know, 25 books or something. So, the support is huge and never giving up and going to classes and workshops. There's a ton of
Exactly. Getting
great
involved.
local
Yeah.
conferences. Yeah. And then the
Mhm.
National Art of the Way conference is just amazing. So
Mhm.
that's what I would suggest.
Yeah. You hear so many authors say, "Oh, I've been trying so hard to get published," and you never know if you try a little bit longer, it could be the next one that.
Exactly. And like a really good friend and a mentor once said to me, she's like, well, you could quit, but in 5 years you would just be back writing again. So you would have lost five
Exactly.
years. Because if
Yeah.
you're a writer, you're a writer. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You're not going to
Yeah.
stop. Nothing's going to stop you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, are there any fun events that you're attending in the near future? Are there any writers' conferences coming up or book signings? Anything fun happening?
No, actually, this fall has really been taken up with the
Got it.
class. So I'm
Yeah.
teaching at Bellevue College, and then I'm making a guest appearance and talking about story at the University of Washington as well. And
Amazing.
then I have another book due soon. So
Yeah.
yes, I don't have any, too many special events this year. Next year will be different. So
Yeah. So not a lot of travel, but a lot of stuff going on.
right,
Professor White,
exactly. Yeah.
he's busy.
Oh my gosh.
You're like, oh God, don't say that. That's amazing.
Oh no.
Um, now, where can we find you on social media? I'm sure you update your fans and reach out through social media. Are you a Facebook girl or a Twitter girl or
Yes,
Instagram?
I'm on Facebook,
Hmm.
and I post regularly on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter, and you can find my alter ego, Pat White, on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm spacing it out completely. But the usual social media outlets,
Right.
Pat White Writer is the
Cool.
Twitter, and then Hope White Author is the Facebook and the Twitter. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, when you're not busy teaching and writing, what else do you like to do in your spare time?
I like to I like to hike. The great thing about living here in the Pacific Northwest is that
Yeah.
you could live here forever and never get to all the trails that are here.
Right.
So there's trails, literally the mountains are about 20 minutes from my house. That's the Cascade
Hmm.
Mountains. So I love to go on
Beautiful.
hikes there. On the other side are the Olympic Mountains. Hurricane
Hmm.
Ridge is gorgeous. Love to go out there. So there's usually a lot of hiking going on, or I'm in a movie theater because I just
Yeah.
love going to the movies. And I love seeing movies in the theater. I
Yeah.
don't want theaters to go away. So
I
I'll
know. There's
keep
so much
going. We saw
fun.
The Martian last weekend, and I saw The Intern, and Bridge of Spies looks great. So there's just a lot of really, now it's exciting. Now this is the time of
Yeah.
year that I'll be, it's going to get really
Hmm.
exciting. So
There's so much. Did you like The Martian?
I did. I
I
really
never read
did.
the book, but I want to. I almost want
Yeah.
to read the
And I
book
mean,
first.
I think, yeah, the people we went with read the book first. And of course, oh, it wasn't as good as the book, but you know
Yeah,
how that goes. It's usually always
exactly.
like that because you've made this whole
Yeah.
story up in your head. So
Yep.
yeah.
What's in terms of fans like reaching out and sending you, correspondence, what's the best fan mail that you've ever received? Is there anything that just really, made you say, wow? You're like every other
Yeah.
letter.
Every letter's awesome, but I got
Sure
a
it is.
letter from a 13-year-old fan who
Oh,
said, "You are the greatest writer ever." And
that's the
for about
best.
3 seconds, I believed her.
That's
Because
amazing.
us writers are nothing if not insecure. But that was awesome. The fact,
Yeah.
because it was really personal to me, because the fact was, I think I had a learning disability in school growing up, and
Hmm.
so I wasn't a big reader. I think I had
Yeah.
trouble. And so for me, the fact that a 13-year-old wrote me and said, "This book was so awesome, blah, blah, blah," was just like,
That's amazing.
yay, I'm doing
Yeah.
well. And then I get a lot of Hope White emails saying how much they enjoy the series and
Hmm.
keep going and stuff like that. So,
That's awesome. Now that kind of ties
yeah.
into a viewer question from Nicole. She
Okay.
says, "What motivates you and continues to encourage you to write? Is it your
What
fans
motivates
mostly?
you
You
and it
and
continues to
continues,
encourage you to write?
yeah,
Um, wow. Well, one thing that motivates me is a critique partner. Woo. So I have a
yeah,
critique partner. And when
hmm,
you're accountable to somebody, and this is what I tell my students too,
yeah,
like next month is the novel writing in a month. So if
yeah,
you're really devoted to writing a book, this is your opportunity.
yeah,
Becoming accountable to someone else is huge because you kind of blow it off if nobody knows what you're doing. But I have a
yeah,
critique partner I meet with every other week, and I have to have pages ready. So that is one thing. And then also just from kind of a spiritual place, it's, if I see things in the news or I see something that makes me think there's a message there and I want to
yeah,
write about it, that also inspires me to tell story. Yeah.
yeah. Now, do your fans ever, when they have a connection with a character, do they ever ask you, we want you to write about them again, bring them back into this series? Is there any, times when they really want you to bring someone back and it kind of influences you to do something different?
Yeah. And I might actually do that because in the first book,
Yeah.
in Mountain Rescue, there's
Hmm.
a character, it's about Quinn Donovan. And oh my gosh, the fans they just love Quinn. And they want me to bring him back. But his and Billy's story has already been told. So what I
Yeah.
think I might do is bring him back in a future book and show their wedding, because I thought that would be kind of
Oh,
fun. So I got a
yeah.
lot of email about Quinn. He was very alpha and
Yeah.
needed a lot of healing. And I think I might do that in a future book.
Excellent. Nothing better than like the vulnerable alpha male. You gotta love it. Um,
Right. And yeah.
Nicole wants to know, what are you currently working on, and can you tease anything for us? Not too much, but
Well, I'm currently working on the
10
fifth book
things
in
at
the
once.
series. So what?
I said 10 things at
Okay.
once.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Teaching, screenplay books. Yeah.
Right?
So I don't know if this comes backwards on your screen or not, but for Christmas Undercover,
Yeah, looks good.
there's a character in there, two characters, Cassie. McBride and Nate Walsh. And Nate is a detective in this book, but he's going to be police chief in the next book. And that is the book I'm editing right now.
Okay.
So when you're reading Christmas Undercover, you'll kind of see the sparks fly. And I mean, talk about being opposite ends of the spectrum. These characters are just so opposite. You're like, this is never going to happen. But okay, maybe it does.
Yeah.
So that's the book I'm working on. And then I'll have a sixth book in the series. And I'm thinking that I don't know yet, but it might feature Dr. Spencer because he's kind of this mystery handsome doctor that shows up in town and
Ooh.
everyone's like, and he's really nice, but we suspect he's hiding some secrets.
Yeah.
So that is the next one I think I'm going to do. And then I'm
Awesome.
working on my ex young adult thriller and then my screenplay, Hunted, which is a female Rambo movie. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
What's the
not enough hours in the day.
Oh, yeah. What's the biggest difference between writing a novel and a screenplay? I've never written a screenplay before.
Well, it's really interesting because writing a screenplay, they say show don't tell when you're writing books, and
Yeah,
writing a screenplay, it's all show. I mean, because you can't
yeah,
go to anyone's head, so you're showing everything from their reactions and their conversations, and
right.
then it's just a lot shorter because a script is
Yeah,
100 pages or so, and a book is 250 or 300. So, but
that's
it's
interesting.
great. It's just so fast. Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to condense it, but show more and less. Interesting.
Yeah. And the thing is too, it's interesting because I think sometimes where scripts go wrong is there isn't enough character development. Like when you've written a whole
Yeah.
book, you know a
Hmm.
lot about your character, right?
Oh, yeah.
But when you've written a 100-page script, it's not the same. So there's a lot of work that has to be done ahead of time so that
Hmm.
you can develop those characters really well for a script, just like
Yeah.
you would a book.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think that you would ever write, this is a question from me, I just thought of this. Do you think that you would ever write some sort of like writing guide? Have you thought about, publishing something for your students? Or have you done it already, kind of like a guide? Could be a
I
cool.
haven't. And part of that too is the business is changing so fast
Yeah,
now with the advent of all the self-publishing. So
exactly.
it's kind of like, and even some of the books I get about writing or plotting from Amazon or whatever,
Yeah,
it's like in 2 months they'll be outdated already.
yeah, I
It's
know.
it's crazy how fast it's moving.
Unbelievable. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you collaborated with any authors in the past, on anything, or do you ever want to do that if you haven't yet?
Um, I collaborated only in the sense that I was part of a 4-book series for Silhouette
Hmm.
Nocturne, and we each had a different book in the series.
Yeah,
So we
right.
kind of collaborated on what they call the Bible, which is the
Yeah.
main idea of the series, but not on
Hmm.
an actual story. No,
Yeah.
that would be really challenging, I would think.
Yeah, it would. Even doing the series, when I've talked to other authors during our chats, they're constantly saying they're on the phone with the other authors and emailing and having powwows all the time to just make sure that, everything's like seamless. So it seems like quite
Consistent,
a
right?
process. Yeah. And
Exactly, exactly.
the cover of Christmas Undercover, I just noticed also is I've never really seen anything like this before because there's no hot hunk on here, but it's just like the wild wilderness. I love it. It really
Yeah,
shows
I
the
mean,
setting.
if you're like I said, the mountains out here are just amazing, and
Yeah.
for me, that's enough. You know.
Hmm. Do you normally write about Washington and all of, I know like this series is Washington, correct? But what about, do you like to
Mhm.
go back and forth to other places? Or do you like to write what you know and kind of stay in Washington?
No, I like to write about other places as
Hmm.
well. Chicago, because that's where I'm
Yeah.
from. So
Hmm.
some of my books have been set there. Oregon, which is still kind of around here, I guess you'd say.
Yes.
But Washington just has so much to offer.
Yes.
I just get tons of ideas from being here, going into
Hmm.
the mountains, going out on somebody's boat. It's just
Exactly.
like, wow, just
Yep. You have
so many
ocean,
things to
mountains,
write about.
hiking trails. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we've come to the end of our questions, and we went through all the viewer questions. Thank you guys for sending stuff through. But I just wanted to remind everyone before we say goodbye that we're giving away copies of Christmas Undercover, which we have here, Mountain Rescue, Covert Christmas, and Theo Chocolates from Seattle. So awesome. Look at that. So much, so many goodies for everybody. So thank you guys, and thank you so much for joining us, Hope. It's been great.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a great one, guys. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.